Today we'll demonstrate for you the assembly method for putting together a glass block window using the stack and grout vinyl spacers. Now, first step, you always want to dry fit your blocks. So, I've taken all my blocks, my whole first course is laid out. I've cut my vinyl spacers already to go on the vertical portions. By dry fitting it, I can pull the dimension on the width so that I can get my horizontal spacer cut to size. I've already done this to be sure that everything fits in here correctly. Now when you're cutting these spacers, you always want to cut them to a little bit smaller than the full height of your block. As you can see here, there's a little bit of a setback on either side. This way, the spacer going on your vertical is not going to end up pitching your horizontal spacer up at a funny angle. Now what I'm going to do is take this apart. We're going to start with a flat spacer at the base. Because this is a window, you're going to have flat spacers around the entire exterior of the glass block window. Now the first thing you're going to do is open up your silicone tubes. You've got a cap on the inside and you've got the nozzle, which is usually attached. So the first thing we'll do is cut off the tip and screw the nozzle onto the tube. These are a standard 10-ounce silicone tube. It will fit into a standard caulking gun. I cut the tip off so that it has about a 45-degree angle on the top. Blow it into your caulking gun, and we're all set to go. So I have my flat spacer down on the window opening. What I'm going to do is put 2 beads of silicone on it. Now, I put them on either side of the ridge so they're on the high points. Doing that will allow the silicone to spread out across the spacer and the block when you set the block onto it. Once you get the first block set on there, don't worry if it's not set perfectly onto the spacer. You want to have it set into the groove in the spacer, but you will have some room to move these once you get the whole first row put in. Now that the block is stuck on that bottom spacer, I'm going to do 2 beads of silicone on either side of the ridge on the glass block, and we'll put our vertical spacer on it. Vertical spacer attaches to the block. 2 more beads, which again, you want to be putting the silicone onto the high points of the spacer. That way, when I put the block up against the spacer, it's going to spread it out across that whole face of the block. You normally only need about a 1/4 inch bead of silicone on these spacers. Too much more and you're going to notice that it's going to be coming out of the seam, which you don't want. Two beads, spacer, 2 more beads, and the next block. Now that we have our first course done, all the silicone is in the vertical seams, we're going to take our rubber mallet, we're going to tap the end of the block. That's going to make sure that these are as tightly packed together as they can. You don't need to hit it hard. One thing to remember, only hit it on the top and the bottom corners of the block. The middle portion is a little bit softer and you might break a block if you hit it too hard. Now that I've got my block put together as tightly as possible, I want to make sure that that bottom spacer is not sticking too far out on this end. Now in this case, I've got a little bit of room to play with it, so I can slide all the blocks slightly over. Now I'm going to put my 2 beads of silicone on top of this and put my first full stack horizontal spacer on. Now it's always a good idea to check your blocks, whether before you build the wall or during, to make sure that you don't have any blemished blocks. If you got a blemish, something serious like a crack or a chip, do not use the block because it's not going to be as solid as a good block. Now that we've got our last course on the wall, I'm going to put on our vertical and horizontal spacers on the outside. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you put together the glass block window using stack and grout spacers. Thank you for watching.